Welcome to the Pitmaster Podcast. We're barbecue competition competitors that aim to share information, advice, tips, and tall tales about our favorite pastime. Head over to thepitmasterpodcast.com for all things Pitmasters, or follow us on your favorite social media platform. And now, here are the hosts of the Pitmaster Podcast, the two-time grand champion, SCA World Champion finalist, and barbecue specialist of Smoke Ain't No Joke Barbecue, the Anthony Luan, and the 24-time grand and reserve grand champion, reserve world grand champion, Windover High Roller champion, and the founder of Pitmaster Barbecue Supply Company stores in Utah, the old man himself from Big Johnson's Barbecue, Jesse Johnson.
This is Greg Rempe from the Barbecue Central Show, and you are listening to the Pitmasters Podcast, and they are doing it live.
We'll do it live.
That's right, Bill. I just said that. They're going to do it live.
We'll do it live.
Yes, live. They're going to do it live.
All right, guys. Here we are tonight on another Tuesday night. We have a special guest tonight. We have Mardy Rich with Voodoo Roasters. We're going to talk to him about, his experience in doing barbecue, and then also becoming a national sponsor for the SCA. Let's talk about how he got into that, and being involved with all of that. He's got a lot going on with that coffee company, and if you haven't tried it, I highly recommend it. It's great stuff.
Yeah,
but
it's
Jesse,
great to have sponsors like that help with the SCA and help offset the cost for the promoters. It's awesome. It's people don't realize what a big deal our sponsors are, and it makes a huge difference for competitions.
It surely does. But Jesse, what we got going on new? Anything new?
I need some more RFXs. They keep selling out.
Keep ordering them then.
Dude, I've got 4 orders in since the inception. So I got my first order. I should expect my second order, and I'm like, I just keep throwing it out there. So they're blowing up. So it's awesome.
Well, good news for everybody out there. If you place your order today, it will ship in the next 7 business days.
Wow. I'll hop on and do another order.
Yeah, so the back order is definitely getting handled, and we're starting to fulfill a lot of those orders quickly. So
that's awesome.
We're going into the holiday season, so make sure you get those. You got the Christmas hams coming up, all that good cooking.
Christmas hams, we got Thanksgiving turkeys, because oh my goodness. I mean, I hope I have enough brines for everybody. I reordered a couple different brines. It's like, oh my gosh, it's just been absolutely chaos at the stores.
Speaking of those, man, that Hay Grill Hay turkey setup, that is awesome, man. I highly recommend everybody getting that.
Cranberry sauce is nojoke.com, man.
Right?
I actually, for that horrible fights, well, I take that back. The women's fight was awesome, but the fights Friday night, I did smoked cream cheese and I used that cranberry sauce, man. It was off the charts good. So
right. The women's fight was fantastic. Yeah. One of the fighters got robbed. And so same with the 2 guy fighters before as well, too. So then the main event was obviously well staged, got us all involved, took all of our money.
Yep. Well, it didn't cost anybody any money, but it's like the buffering was horrendous. And then the fight was worse than the buffering.
Bullshit. It costs, I know in this household, it cost more than $100 in bets because all Tyson had to do was land 50 punches and he landed 18. So yes, he took our money. I was like, 50 punches. Tyson could do that in the first 2 minutes, but apparently not.
After he caught Jake a couple of times, I think it made his sphincter tighten up really, really tight.
Right.
And it sucked all the wind out of him because he was sucking air the rest of the fight. But
yeah,
I just think that there might have been shenanigans with the contract.
Oh, yeah. Well, apparently in the contract, it says that he wasn't allowed to knock Jake Paul out anyway, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah. So it's more WWE than World Championship boxing, right?
Yeah, apparently I guess his next fight's going to be Blue from from the movies, but whatever. So but yeah, man, there's not a whole lot new. If you are actually promoting a competition, barbecue or SCA, please let me know so I can put that on our events page. Our events page is looking very empty because there's not a lot of events going on, but we want to know about them. So send those messages over to us and we will get them on the events page.
What did you think about the new Pitmaster pit from Able Barbecue?
Yeah, it's awesome. I really like it. I like the traditional, rolled still look to it. I like the shelves. It look amazing. I would love to try to cook on one. So if you want to roll one to my backyard, I'm more than happy to give it a test go.
Well, that's a prototype. So we're just taking pre-orders right now. So we got 6 in the works right now, and they're gonna hit the stores here probably within the next 3 or 4 weeks
Right.
for the ones to sell. But I've got 2 people lined up as pre-orders so far. So hopefully we can finalize those and get those up and rolling, because that's just a sexy piece of work. That's a work of art.
It is. Yeah, it's really good looking. And then you got to break them in. Got to make sure they're well oiled. Get a good patina on them to make sure they don't rust.
We're not, because we are not putting any powder coating on them. It's going to be raw steel, so you get to keep oiling them up and make them nice and patinaed, and take that oil and let it polymerize or carbonize, and just turn it into plastic on the outer coating. So it's going to be cool.
Exactly. What do you think about the theory about rubbing onions on it? Supposedly that hardens it.
I haven't heard that.
Yeah, I guess it's a rumor. I'm not sure. Maybe we can ask Mardy if he's ever heard of this rumor, but they say do it with your cast irons and everything like that. Apparently the chemical reaction in onions is supposed to make everything harden and stick resistant.
I might have to grab a bag of onions and start rubbing away.
Who knows? That's just a rumor. I don't know it. I might have to Google that, and people can email me and tell me that I'm wrong and whatever. So.
Well, how about anybody knows about rubbing onions on cast iron or on pits? Hammer it down in the comments.
Exactly. But yeah, I don't have much other news. That we only have. Let me take a look at our calendar. I think we take next week off, and then we will have one more guest on the 3rd of December, and then we will go into our holiday break. So we do take this annual holiday break just because it gets hard for guests and family coming into town, cooking and all that stuff. So I will repost some older podcasts. If there's a certain episode you want to rehear, obviously you can listen to it wherever you want, or I can just repost it if you think it's worth sharing, and I will just fill those time slots with some reruns. But other than that, I do got some tastings coming up as well that we'll be able to fill in some time too. So it won't be long, and then we'll just fire up right again. And
we'll be bottling one of our new rubs here shortly. So we got a new rub coming out from Big Johnson's Barbecue. It'll be our version of 3-2-1. It's going to be a nice little sweet addition to our lineup. So maybe
we'll get you on the tasting and we can give you a live review. See how that goes.
That'd be awesome. Yeah.
Heck yeah!
Have you tried Southern Savory or the OG beef rub?
Probably a long time ago.
Yeah, we'll have to get you. Yeah. I'll get you some bottles, and we'll get you all three flavors. We can sit down and have a conversation about. Let's bring in Mardy. Let's talk about some coffee.
Yeah, before we talk about Mardy, we got to talk about Relight real quick though. Have you been using it lately? I failed horribly this week.
I used it when we were down in Vegas. So it was just to keep my electrolytes up and my mineral count up, so I don't have any cramping issues. It's phenomenal.
Yeah, I failed this week. I haven't had any this week. It's pretty bad, but it's all good. I need a re-up. So anybody who wants to learn about Relight or Real Salt, which they have great salt products, as well for your cooking as well, just go visit pitmasterspodcast.com, and there's a link on there to follow over to their website, and then that way you can give us a little bit of credit for following through on that link, and then also supporting a local Utah company as well. So but other than that, let's go in and let's go talk to Mardy and see what it takes to become a national sponsor in competition barbecue.
Let's do it. Money.
Yeah, lots of that.
Yeah, lots.
We call it Thermapen 1, the first true 1-second cooking thermometer. Its unprecedented speed means Thermapen 1's responsiveness approaches the speed of thought. Because when you're plating the perfect menu or smoking the perfect side of barbecue, you don't have time to think about how your instant read thermometer is accurate to 0.5 degrees in 1 second or less, or how rugged and waterproof it is, or how big, elegant and bright the backlit display is. You'll just know it works, because our perfection powers your perfection. Seek perfection with Thermapen 1.
Mardy, welcome to the show. How are you doing this evening?
Doing good. How are you guys doing?
Not too bad, man. It's It's a Tuesday night. It's getting cold out there, so we might have to talk about how to get this coffee rolling so we can stay warm.
Absolutely.
Well, let's just get into it, man. Let's tell people a little bit who you are, about your barbecue journey, and then also how you got into the coffee industry.
All right. Well, funny enough, I got into the coffee because of barbecue. So if anybody, has anybody's done any KCBS type events, you get up early in the morning, light the fires, things like that, and you're all kind of wandering around, huddling, drinking your coffee and things like that, and kind of BSing with the other competitors. And that's just kind of where that was, come from. That's your first thing you end up doing after you light the fires is have some coffee. Well, some people have other things a little stronger, but coffee was where I stuck. And so I've been tinkering with the concept of bringing in, premium grade coffees and things for years. I've had some connections in Brazil and things like that where I could get a hold of this sort of stuff. And so I started pursuing a little bit heavier. And, it was right before COVID hit that, when we launched everything in 2020. And I'd been doing a little bit prior to that, but I was able to get a really good lineup of things to where we've got over 40 different varieties, and they're not your average coffees either. A lot of this comes from small family co-ops and things like that, where they're just generational coffee beans and things from the family, and it's all done right. And so they really are kind of a step up in grade. So I pay more than I would if I got it from a bulk or wholesale or something like that, but I think you can taste the difference. So as we kind of started going with that, it really took off pretty good through COVID because everybody was ordering online. Everybody's afraid to go out, all that whole scare tactic stuff. So it started doing pretty good. So I got a lot of this in there just to kind of get my kids involved in this process too. So it's kind of just a family affair and let them to learn a little bit about what it's like to start a business and things of that nature and some of the stuff that comes with it. So good teaching moment. But as I've gotten more and more into the competitive barbecue and things like that, it just kind of seemed a natural segue to go into it just because of how I kind of came about it. And so I did get, I'd been a judge, started out a judge with both KCBS and SCA before I ever competed. I want to see what was, under the hood there, what was in the back end of what they're really judging, how they're treating things, stuff of that nature. So I knew how to kind of react when I started cooking. And even with all that, I probably wasn't prepared when I went out there and did the first few cooks, I remember competing against Jesse and getting my butt kicked pretty hard too. So, but it was fun. It's the community from barbecue and things like that, that's what makes it all worth it. Really, people are so helpful and they're not judgmental. It's not like this, vicious high school competition sort of thing. It's like people really do embrace each other and help any way possible. And that type of an environment it's just been kind of a fuel for us going out and competing because we just love it. We've made so many good friends, doing this. And so I got to the point where the SCA was just really starting to take off. And I reached out to them and asked if they, had anybody that was like a coffee sponsor or anything like that. And they didn't, and they actually never thought about it, which it just does seem kind of like a jump, from coffee to barbecue in that scenario. But I reached out to Ken and those guys, and Ken's a coffee fanatic. So he's like, yeah, I'm all over it. Let's do this. And so we struck a deal and became a sponsor for all of SCA. And then I've done quite a few different events, anywhere from California, Alaska, a bunch of the series here in Utah, stuff like that. I've sponsored a bunch of Kids Q back in, like Oklahoma, in that area where they do a bunch of that sort of stuff. They have more comps than we do by far. Yeah. And so I've had the opportunity to really kind of do that. And I love supporting the Kids Q and getting these young kids cooking and see the excitement on their face and when they get the awards and stuff like that. It's awesome. It's amazing. And so I really felt pretty fortunate that we could do this. Now, everything that we make from the company, we pretty much put back into it just because it's kind of more of a hobby than it is something that I'm going to rely on. I still have my day job, stuff like that. But I do this for fun. I do it because I love it. And so it's really been kind of an adventure to go through from inception through my barbecue journey and stuff like that with this, being one of my, I don't want to say crutches, but one of my things that I do, and so it's just been fantastic.
When you
That's awesome.
So when you started sponsorships locally, you started with Steve Johnson and Barbecue Pit Stop with the local SCAs and their series, and then how did it expand from there?
That was probably just kind of how we got going, is because I was competing in that series. It was close by to where I lived and things like that, so it was really easy to get going into that series. And talking with Steve, we decided let's try and amp this up a little bit. And we wanted to focus a little bit more on the ancillaries because it draws a lot more diverse crowd. And so the award bags and things that I did, they were awards for the ancillary divisions. And so it kind of gave people a little bit more incentive to go out and do the ancillaries and not just steak only. And so it got a little bit more attention that way. And so we started that process, and it's been pretty well received. People have liked the swag bags that I put together and things like that. And Steve even commented that he thought that more people had supported the ancillaries when we started doing that, because the payouts on the ancillaries are so small that a lot of times people don't really want to put their time into them. So having a little bit of extra sometimes seems to give people a little bit more incentive or a nudge to do those ancillaries. And so
and people don't realize how important sponsors are to local promoters. I mean, that any kind of little help that you can help a promoter, it makes all the difference in the world to be able to do more contests more often, have more prize money, and do all those things. So sponsorships go a long way for local promoters.
Yeah, they really do.
It's hard to get a lot of people that really want to jump in and support that sort of stuff. And as a local company, you get all kinds of local, even if it's the schools and organizations and things like that really come out and want to, have you help sponsor them too. And so I kind of have to be a little bit picky. I can't afford to sponsor them all. Sure. And so I've kept my niche more into the barbecue line of things, just because that's one of my passions. And so it's been fun, like just to really watch all this and see how far my coffee company has gone and how far I start shipping things now.
It's awesome.
So yeah, I mean, I've even shipped quite a few times into Canada, and that one's a rough one to get into because the shipping in there is brutal, expensive. It's almost as much to ship some stuff in there as it is for the cost of the product. So, but I've still had some people that still order. So it's impressive that they are dedicated enough to do that.
Yeah, and people don't realize is if you're out buying products, try to buy from local companies first, because they're the ones that are coming back and helping with sponsorships. They're the ones that people come to and go, hey, will you sponsor our high school team, our junior high team, our dance team, our cheerleaders? Well, the big box stores aren't doing those sponsorships. It's the small mom and pop companies that are doing those sponsorships. So when you're spending your money in those big multi-billion-dollar companies, that money is just flying right out of Utah. So when you shop in Utah, it helps everybody in the community.
Yeah. And, one of the other things that we did too that I really enjoyed, I teamed up with Michael Peterson. I think you guys both know him.
Sure. He's
awesome. He did this bunch of raffle baskets and stuff for wounded veterans and things like that. And so we were happy to be part of that. And I think, Jesse, you were as well.
Yep.
On that one. So, stuff like that, really good organizations. We've done stuff with Actual Wounded Warrior a little bit over the years too. So they're a little bit more expensive than some of the others for me to deal with. But great organizations, and I love supporting them.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Let me get a banner rolling. There we go. But I'm looking at your website, dude. My question that comes right off the top of my head is, you have so many different flavors. How do you flavor coffee like how you do? We're not going to talk about, obviously we have the Costa Rica blends and the Mexico blends. Those are different, beans and things like that. But like, we're talking about pecan pie, cinnamon, candy cane.
Yeah.
How does one flavor the coffee like that? I've always wondered that. So might as well go to the source.
Sure. So the normal process with the bigger companies, what they do is they roast these huge, gigantic batches, and then they pull out what they need to, and they flavor it. And what they do is they're basically coating the outside of the bean with these flavoring oils. We do things a little bit different. So one of the things that I wanted to do when we started this was not to be in direct competition with those guys, because they buy in bulk, they buy cheap, they get some of the stuff that's just, in my opinion, is garbage. But they roast it and pass it off anyway. Yeah. And cheap. So what we do is we do everything is in small batch. It's to your order. So if you put an order in, we roast your order by itself in these little small special roasters. And at the end of the process for the flavored ones, what we do is we try to stick to the higher quality oils. If it's an organic oil or something like that, we prefer that. But when the beans start to cool down and they're still warm, you put the oil on it and you tumble it in. What that does allows it to draw itself in and meld with the bean itself, and you don't get that like funky flavor of artificial flavoring. It really brings it together and makes a huge difference. And so that, and then we ship it pretty much the same day it's roasted is the goal. And so that way, by the time it reaches you 3-4 days later, you've got pretty much the freshest roasted coffee you can get, without being on site. Right. So the flavorings are kind of tricky sometimes, and a lot of that is tough to get the right amount in there so you're not overpowering things, stuff like that. So there's a lot of trial and error in the formulas, but it makes a difference. And so we like some of the ones we have. Our most popular one, it's called Mexican chocolate. That thing, it sells like crazy. And if any of you have ever tasted the real Mexican chocolate, it is different. Like, there is something about that. It is just so rich and so smooth that it makes you think the chocolate here is garbage. It's not waxy.
Everything we have is over processed in the United States. That's why Mexican Coke tastes better, because it's made with real cane sugar without all the high fructose corn syrup and that stuff, all the junk.
Yeah. And so, that's what I ended up doing on that one. Was it took quite a few tries to get that one right, but it's very nuanced. You still taste the coffee, but you've got that little smooth richness that comes through from that chocolate flavoring. And it's our second bestseller.
What's your number one?
It's a 6-bean blend. So this one's a little bit higher end quality wise, because we take single origin beans. What they mean by single origin is that it's not hybrid for anything. These are the long-standing small companies that I've talked about that grow, the family growers and small co-ops, stuff like that. And they all specialize in the same type of bean throughout their whole lives. And so I took 6 different regions. Some are high altitude coffees, some are normal. And it's a mix of Arabica and Robusta beans. And so I because I could source these really consistently, I started building that up with them. And it's a dark roast coffee, but we do something a little different on this one as well. Most of the time when you think of a dark roast, you're thinking of something like one of the big chains or something that has this really dark black bean and it's oily, when you dump it out of the bag, stuff like that. Well, what that is called is it's roasting to what they call the second crack in the bean when it starts to open up. And when you get to that point, you get the natural oils come out of the bean. And if you keep roasting, they start to kind of burn a little bit. So you get that acrid bitterness from them. Yep. So what we do when we're roasting and hit that, just on that beginning threshold of the dark, is we stop right at or just before that second crack. And what that allows it to do is to really put it right at the peak of the roasting, and it doesn't give us any of that bitterness. And so with the combination of all those different regional beans, it really comes together with something that's just, if you sit down and sip and taste it, you'll taste the difference. It is so smooth. And most of the people that try it, when they say it's a dark roast, they don't believe me. They think it's a medium roast, but it's way more robust in flavors because of the process.
Yeah, I like a dark roast myself, but I don't know how people go to Starbucks and enjoy that coffee, because that coffee is so bitter and so horrible. I'm like, give me the biggest one you got and fill it halfway with heavy cream so it doesn't taste so damn bitter.
That's exactly why. It's sugar and creams.
And part of those is because of the way they buy in that big bulk. And you may have a dozen different types of beans in there that they all roast together. So they're going to roast at different times. Some are going to be, if it's a Robusta bean, it's smaller than an Arabica bean. And so it's going to roast quicker. Yeah. And so you have to find that balance. They just roast it and then throw it in there until everything is nice and cooked. And then they dump them out and bag them. Yeah.
Right. So I'm going to bring up the nerd aspect here slightly. We've already tapped into that, with the roasting techniques and everything like that. What is the best way to prepare your coffee? Obviously, you're selling a whole bean and you got to grind it. Yep. My thing is here comes the thermodynamics. What is the perfect steeping temperature of your coffee, and what is the actual real good process? French press, running it through a machine. What is the best way to bring out those characteristics of the coffee?
There's not really a best way to do it. There's all these really good ways to do it. And it really comes down to personal preference on how you want your flavor to be. Because, for example, a French press versus a Turkish roast, when you're doing in the lookups, man, way different. But those Turkish roasts, they're smooth, but man, they kick you. They have they're strong as far as like the caffeine levels and things like that, and they wake you right up. Yeah. But that's just a difference in how they roast it and how they do it. And so it really comes down to which one do I like the best, or what do I want right now? My personal preference really is I like to do just an espresso shot, and then I'll add that with, if I want, like to make a latte or even just keep it as an Americano or something like that. It really depends on the day, kind of what I'm in the mood for. Like our house is just like, it's kind of lined with coffee makers, that we experiment and do different things. And, so it's one of those things where you go and experiment and you find out what you like, and then you go with it, Right. And that's what I've ended up doing. And that's what I usually tell most people, is that I don't want to tell you that this is the best way, because you may not like it. Some people I know, they like just to brew the nice old pot of coffee with the ground through the filters. And, for me, I pick up the pot, and if it's nice and dark, that's great. But I know people that looks like it's watered down, it's more like tea, and that's how they love it, So, but there's nothing saying that that's the wrong way either. That's what they love.
Right. So. And then what about grinding it? Is there like a special way to grind it, or is it just get the $5 grinder from Walmart and just let it rip? What's the
what's the best $5 grinders will work kind of in a pinch is what I would rather say. But if you really want to get the better type of a grind on it, you want to get a burr grinder. And what that does is it kind of shaves the bean as it grinds it. So it's not crushing and shattering it. It's more shaving it off into smaller little pieces. And so when that starts to leach through, it's a more efficient process. So you don't have to add as much coffee as you would normally to get it to the same strength if you were to use like one of the cheap grinders.
What grind was that again?
A burr grinder.
Burr.
Mm-hmm. It's just the style.
I have a Cuisinart.
Mm-hmm.
So that's.
Is it one of those that has the grinder on top, put in the beans?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
They use burr grinders in there, so you're good.
Oh, good. Oh, all right.
Yeah.
I'm bougie like Mr. D. Anthony Lewin.
Bougie. Jeez. Yeah. Wow. So let me just see. Well, let's see.
But I have not done a French press.
I think this is what Jesse's talking about here, aren't we, Jesse? We're just
something similar to that. Not quite that one, but yeah, something close.
All right.
But, I think another one. Yeah, I think another one he's got.
I've been toying with getting one of the drips where you kind of almost drip it into a beaker. It looks like it's fun, but in the mornings, getting out of the house is like, all right, hit the K cup and roll,
right?
And I like using that, making like a bulletproof version for put all the MCT oils into the system for my old brain and help it get working in the morning. So caffeine and some fats and I'm good to go. But yeah, I wish I had more time to play with that in the mornings.
Kind of the newer, I guess it's kind of a fad, is the pour over. Is what people do, is they, like you said, a little funnel, and they sit there and they just have a nice technique and they pour over it, and it takes 5 or 6 minutes to brew a cup of coffee.
Yep.
At least to get everything in there, and then it has to still finish seeping through. So by the time you're done, you're 10 minutes for a cup of coffee,
Yeah.
And granted, it tastes dang good, but I'm like
they're phenomenal.
Yeah, I just don't have the patience for it either in the mornings and stuff like that. So same thing. And
when somebody does that for you, you got to get them. We got to hit them with that Pulp Fiction. Damn, Jimmy, this is some gourmet shit. You know what I mean? If they do that for you, you have to hit them with that quote.
Oh yeah.
I've always wondered about the Turkish coffee pots, the ones that you see in the Middle East and in Turkey. It's got that big, huge basin and the pot on top, and it looks like you're pouring out crude oil. I'm like, that's the kind of coffee I like to try. I've never had Turkish coffee.
It's really good. So, but it's one of those where it's a super, super fine grind on Turkish coffees, and they pour it right into those little pots, basically. And then for them, they actually have a kind of a table that's heated. It's got sand on it and stuff like that, but it's all fired and heated from underneath, and they sit and they run that little pot around in the sand and stuff like that, and it slowly starts to heat up. And the process is just as that starts to really kind of bubble up and come over, then they pull it back a little bit. They may do that a couple of times. It depends on how strong you want it to be. So the more times you repeat that process, the stronger it's going to be. So, but it's the coffee really is phenomenal. You can take a really strong coffee and run it through that process, and it's really smooth. It's one of those where you can just sit back and sip it straight. You don't need anything in it. But because it is so strong, I know a lot of people that say that it just tears up their stomach because they're not used to having something that strong hit them, especially here. Which, out there, it's no big deal. That's normal. But it's great. It's a different process. It's a little bit more lengthy too sometimes, but I've done it here and done it on my stove. I've done it on my camp chefs, over the fire and stuff like that, and it works fantastic. Wow. So we might have to try it at the next comp we're at. Maybe see if we can brew some up for you guys.
Oh, that'd be awesome. Well, there's
how about you bring you give us a sponsorship for the KCBS event next year, but your sponsorship is just coming out and making coffee for the crew.
I think we can make that happen.
Yeah. All right, because I think everybody be super happy to have some nice coffee on that Saturday morning as we're getting rolling.
Perfect.
There's 3 blends on here that I want to try. I guess that starts jumping out. I want to try the Mexican chocolate blend that you got, the 6-bean, and then also we're gonna jump over to the tea side. The masala chai sounds amazing.
That one is. It's really good. It's got a nice little spice, hint to it, stuff like that. That one does pretty good. It's not a bad seller. Something I just kind of added this last year was a teas. Just kind of started jumping into that because of some of the connections that I have with the roaster and stuff like that. Is they import some of this in, and they're like, "Hey, would you be interested in expanding?" I'm like, "Let's try it. Why not?" And so, tea not being my forte, but I've really actually enjoyed the ones we brought in, and that masala chai is pretty fantastic. Now there's another one there. It's called Rubios. So that one is one that it's like an immune building type tea.
Okay.
And so for people that are even fighting like respiratory things like that, like this has so many health properties that the way this brew has come together that a lot of people use it as just kind of a fighting a cold, they'll drink. Now I don't know how effective it is. I'm not making any claims, but that's just what has happened, and that's kind of how they've treated it. So they do say that the ingredients have lots of health benefits for people as well. So.
Yeah, dude, you have so many flavors. Like, there's no need to shop anywhere else. You just get everything here. It's like, you got from candy cane, you got a Mexico blend, chocolate hazelnut, gourmet donut shop. You have sample packs. We're talking about breakfast blends plus. So that's probably has more caffeine. Yep, and then Ethiopian naturals. There's so many different Nicaragua, dude. We
try to bring them in from all around the world just because, it gives people a different choice than what they would normally have walking through the supermarket,
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, you can try everything here. And then looks like you have the combination packs too. You can get combos, sample packs. There's so much on here. I can't believe how deep the coffee games go. And it kind of makes sense, if you're a coffee drinker, it's kind of the same as a whiskey drinker, right? You're looking for certain notes. You're looking for certain flavors, right?
Yeah.
How many brands do you have on the back shelf, brother? It's like, So when you bring in coffee, I mean, you have to bring in like big bags, like 50-pound, 100-pound bags. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's on the minimum side. Yeah.
Really?
Wow.
Mm-hmm. But I've got.
So do you have a warehouse now, or are you working out of the house? What are you doing?
No, I've contracted it so that I have a roasting facility that I work with in California and one in Chicago. And these guys, they've agreed to take the orders direct from my site. I kick them the orders to whatever I've got the product at. They fulfill them and send them out. They'll roast it and do it to our process.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like drop shipping for coffee. That is awesome.
Yeah. And they store it for me and everything, of course. So, but it's one of those things where, it's going to cost me a little bit more, but I think it's worth it in the end product.
Well, the thing is you're getting actual fresh coffee. You go to you can get some gourmet stuff at the stores and stuff like that. But how long has it really been sitting on the shelf, right?
How long has it been on the shelf?
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
So when you click that order, you're getting fresh roast. You're getting your it sent out. So probably from the warehouse to your home, it's roasted within days.
Mm-hmm.
So versus weeks or months.
Yeah, we usually can get it between 4 and 5 days on your doorstep after it's roasted. And there was kind of some studies that went out on how long people warehouse, and the bigger the coffee company, the more they roast in bulk and then they store it to handle the distribution to their multiple sites and things like that. So it's not uncommon to go buy some at a grocery store and it was roasted 6 months ago.
Right.
Oh, I believe it.
Right. So, and then you don't have any like pre-ground stuff. It's all just fresh beans, right? So you have to have the grinding system.
It's all, we start out, everything's fresh bean. But if someone orders it and they want it to be ground, we'll do a standard grind for people, like what they do in a coffee pot, with a normal filter, or we'll do an espresso grind. So the espresso is a little bit finer than the normal drip coffee makers and stuff like that. And so we give those 3 options. And then we have some K-cups in some of the specialty ones, as well as just, I try to get my house blend, which you'll see probably on the second row there on the website. And that one actually has got another thing a little bit unique too. The roasting facility has this really cool old roaster. Instead of just being basically a hot plate that it runs and stirs them up and roasts them and things like that, this thing's more like a mesh bottom on it. And it has literal burners underneath. And so these beans are getting flame kissed as they're roasting. And so it's the only one that they do that with. But they'll roast because they roast do the K-cups in a little bit larger batches, just because you have to run it through a lot bigger process as far as packaging and things like that. It's more of a pain.
When people are making, so say somebody's making it in a K-cup, there's a difference between running it for a 12 ounce to a 10 ounce to an 8 ounce. Mm-hmm. It seems like the 8 ounce gives you the best flavor, and I always run mine strong. Mm-hmm. So you run it through the strong setting, but they're talking about to get the best flavor possible out of a K-cup is 8 ounces instead of the larger ones. Is that correct?
It is, yeah. And that's pretty much what we target. Is we'll target the 8 ounce range, and then if someone wants it to be a little bit weaker, they'll go up to the 10 or the 12. Sizes. Usually on the coffee makers, they'll give you 4 or 5 different ounce sizes that you can go with, but 8's the target, and that's really just because the amount of coffee you can put in that K-cup, if you're to kind of equate that out to what a drip coffee maker would be as you're putting stuff in, that's kind of where the amount of coffee really kind of hits the sweet spot. Mm-hmm. And so, but like I say, everybody has their own taste, preference, and things like that. So they'll adjust it up once they get it. But that those K-cups there, it actually says fire roasted on the K-cup, just because it's kind of a unique process.
And that's your house blend?
Yeah.
Awesome. I'll hop on and order some for the store, because I drink coffee every morning once I get to the store. So,
well, I'll get you a discount code.
All right.
Heck yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, we need those. So my question is natural progression. When are we going to see a coffee rub for barbecue?
Man, I have been working on that for a while. And the KSL comp, I actually had a version there that I had a few people taste, and they gave me some good positive feedback on it. But for me, I think I'm just too damn picky. And so when it comes to making the rubs, it's like, I don't know if it's quite there, and I second guess myself too much, and so I have to Same with doing the coffee formulas. I have to get to a point where it's like, I just don't think I can make it better, and that's what we go with. So I'm working on it, but I'm not quite ready to start putting in a bottle yet and selling it. But it's definitely on my roadmap.
Yeah, there's a couple of decent ones out there, but something that's made locally, man, that'd be an awesome addition to any of the barbecue supply stores here in Utah.
Yeah, I'll have to get a little bit more serious on putting it together over the weekend of the winter. That's usually when I work on it.
He froze. He froze on us. We didn't hear anything what you just said, Marty.
I did.
He froze
you
up.
did.
Oh, I
you
did. Oh,
I was just say I'll have to focus on that this winter a little bit more to get my blend down, get my formula.
Right. Yeah. I think there's coffee rubs have a place. They're obviously, I feel like, lenient more towards beef, but man, having a good coffee rub on some good tri-tip, it's always a home run.
And that's one of the things I'm trying to do with this rub is not make it like everybody else's coffee rub that they only put on beef. I'm trying to turn it so it's a little bit more all-purpose, but you got that hint of coffee with it still. So I'm trying to have a different flavor profile and see if it works. It may not, but I'll have to get you guys some stuff out, some samples and stuff when I start putting it back together and get your thoughts and feedback on those things. I know you guys have got some pretty good palates, so I'd be curious.
Very nice. Yeah. And we're more than happy to help you, but I already got some ideas in the works, like that pecan pie. That'd be great blended for some, like a pork line with the pork rub. Oh man. Yep. So those are just my ideas. You never know. I throw a lot of ideas out there, but never execute any of them. I'm like, Marty, go make this. But it's a lot.
He's calling himself out.
Yeah. That's all right. I'll let you be the judge. How's that?
Yes, I'm more than happy to. I'm always willing to support you and the stuff you do. But man, let's talk about the teas just a little bit too. You did mention the one, but you have an apple cider flavor, jasmine, mango. Are those going through the same process? What's the difference in them? Are you adding the oils, or do you actually have like apples and mangoes inside these teas?
No, these are ones that I don't actually formulate or anything like that. I'll be straight honest with you. I'm not a tea guy, so I'm bringing in these products that are tried and tested, the jasmine, the English breakfast, things like that, as kind of a base. And so we've got a few different companies that they make it, and this comes through my roasting facilities where the connection I kind of got in with these guys. And so they're like, yeah, we've got some that are not your typical stuff you'll find in a grocery store. And they're like, would you want to try those and see it? I'm like, heck yeah, why not? And so I got all of these to give it a try and test. And I actually loved every one of them. And so it kind of depends on what you're in the mood for. I'm not as much of a sweet tea guy like the mango and the peach. They are still really good. But if you're a person that likes the sweet, it's going to hit the spot for you. The masala chai and stuff like that, it has a nice, really kind of a more robust flavor to it, like a normal chai does. You kind of have that deep flavor. And then the apple cider one, if you've ever had, I'm trying to remember what they call it here in Utah, it's like when in the wintertime when everybody makes all the apple cider with all the cinnamon sticks and everything in it, things like that. For treating colds or whatever, or just to have a warm cup, that's similar to what this tastes like. It kind of gives you that deep flavor from those and the spices that you can taste in them and things of that nature. So it's just really kind of the teas ended up being more of a fun thing to bring in and try. And so I've got got a few people that really like them, and I got. Tina Cannon likes a few of the ones. I send her those, and so I've got a few that are starting to really kind of pick them up a little bit more regular, things like that. So
right, yeah, I was into the flavored teas for a while. Like this is when Tivana was around. I don't know if you guys remember. They had the stores in the malls and they had different flavored teas, but that's what I really enjoyed teas. But that kind of went away. But being able to have flavored teas like that, I think that brings it back into the game a little bit, because it's nice to have a good tea that could be hot or cold, so that's
something different than Earl Grey or ginger or something like that. The old basics and stuff that you see, lemon. I didn't want, like I say, another reason I didn't want to do any of those really was I didn't want to compete. So even the mango and jasmine and stuff like that are not quite as mainstream, and so they still give a little bit of that feel to them, and stuff like that.
Definitely, yeah. So yeah, dude, your website is loaded with stuff. I've been on here way back, but you've elevated your game for sure. It looks like the whole website's brand new. You got all kinds of merchandise. That tumbler, that 20-ounce tumbler is pretty badass.
I actually need to make some updates to the site. I just haven't had time. So
yeah, it's looking great. But yeah, so I would just also want to know what this is kind of offshooting back into the barbecue as becoming a sponsor. What are some of the downsides to it? Because everybody thinks about it. I've thought about having the Pitmasters podcast become a sponsor in the SCA, but then obviously the financial aspect to it. Is it tough because everybody tries to ask for something? Like what are some of the downsides? Because everybody always talks about the upsides. Thank you to our sponsor for contributing and everything like that, but there has to be negative with that positive as well.
Well, and I think part of that too is who you're sponsoring with. I've definitely sponsored some events that, man, I never even made it onto their social media or anything, and so the only ones that probably would have heard about it is if they called it out on the awards. So there's mileage that you try to get out of some of these sponsorships when people are thanking the sponsors and things like that. If you're getting some social media traction or something like that, it helps. Like with the SCA, I'm pretty much exclusive as far as coffee goes with them. And we've got promo codes out there for anyone that's SCA related. You pull them off the SCA website to get a discount on the coffee and stuff because you're a member. And so I can sit and track a lot of this through these, the codes and stuff that I give out as to how much traction I get or who's really being, kind of the voice for me. Yeah. And so I just kind of watch that. I have to see what's going to be, worth continuing to spend the money on. And even if it's just seeing my logo out on the banners, how many people start to recognize that? And I've had quite a few. Even going back to, I sponsored Memphis in May a couple of years for the poultry ancillary out there. And so I got quite a bit of recognition off of that. I went out and, handed out the big checks and all that sort of stuff on stage, and it was a blast, and meeting all those, top-notch barbecue people out there and things, and, dropping off samples with them. I got a lot of recognition and a lot of mileage for stuff like that. But the event itself is super expensive to sponsor. So it's one of those where, as I went back and evaluated after the second year, it's like I could probably take and sponsor a lot more of the smaller events, the kids' queues, the local events, the things like that I think will have a better impact as far as the community and more people having a more intimate experience with it than I can by having my name on a bunch of banners in Memphis,
Right.
So
because those sponsorships have to turn around and turn into sales for you to make any sense.
They do.
It has to.
Yeah. And going into the first year, I never expected to have, kind of an immediate turnover on that because it takes time. So that's why I went with it a couple of years and thought, I want to see if I've got a jump or any sort of an increase in it from, going the second year. And it stayed pretty close to the same. Now, second year, I actually had a booth out there as well. And we sold a ton of coffee out there. But overall, I think what was generated from the sponsorship, if I took everything that we sold right there from the booth out of it and what was extra from people going to the website, things like that, it was about dead even from the first year.
Gotcha.
So it was more of I got some name recognition out of it, things like that. But then, like I say, I can sponsor a heck of a lot more events for what I was paying for that.
So now being a national sponsor, tell us what that entails.
So basically, I just throw money at the SCA.
Take my money. Here you go.
No, it's really not that bad. Those guys are great to work with, and it's definitely a lot more economical for me than the other larger events and stuff like that. So it really is not bad. They work well with me. We get our name out there. They recognize us and stuff for the SCA websites and as far as the sponsors and help promote at times. And like I said, Ken, he's a hazelnut fan. He loves the hazelnut coffee. I think he buys about 5 pounds of that a month. So
Wow.
yeah, they go through it in the office pretty heavy. So
well, Terrell's always done a great job for you here locally to make sure that when she's going through the awards program and making sure all the sponsors that are the local sponsors get recognized and shouted out. So she does a great job for you.
Yeah, as an SCA promoter, I think her, I guess not the promoter, but she's the rep, SCA rep. I think she does a pretty darn good job. Yeah. And the hard thing with those two is sometimes they get a bad rap, but it's like you have a fresh class of judges that come through and it's their first time judging, and you never know what to expect. Every table's different,
Yep, exactly.
And so as a competitor, that's the frustrating part, but it's like, I'm sure that's gotta be frustrating for her too,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I started out as a judge and I left, and she was mad at me when I left to go back to, cooking. She used to have me always be your table captain, So.
Right. Yeah. So what's the natural progression? What's the next stage for you with that? Obviously, you said that, you're making enough money to keep it going. You're enjoying the process. Are you looking to get this into, some local coffee shops where you're becoming a feature and they're going to buy your supplies? What is the natural progression that you're pushing towards? And if anybody's out there that can possibly help you with that's listening, would be fantastic.
Yeah. And I've talked with I've got a few people who we're still talking about how to bring that in. It comes down to, the volumes and what they do is they're trying to get, of course, the best profit margin they can. And so a lot of times they're buying the stuff in bulk. That's, of course, going to be cheaper than what I can get them. And so you do have those that they want to go for quality. And so they love the differences that they can taste. And so they want to keep that up, and they figure that'll help set them apart. So we'll see where it goes. I've got, like I say, some of the smaller shops and stuff around here through Utah and stuff. I've spoken with, and I've got one person that has 3 different shops that they want to possibly explore it. So we'll keep my fingers crossed that they like it well enough and we can establish a relationship there.
Heck yeah. And then how do you feel about getting into like barbecue supply stores, maybe having your 6 blend on the shelf, because I feel like that would possibly sell decently as long as it was a featured spot, maybe by the register or something like that. Have you thought about going down that road at all?
I have, actually. And I think a lot of it too is the last chili cook-off we were out there that you guys sponsored. There was a jar of like olive pickles in there that we bought. So it's like I realized that it's not just rubs.
Right.
Those things were good too, just so you know.
The crawfish pickles?
Yeah.
Those are nojoke.com. Those are so good.
Yeah, they are good. Yep.
See, I even carry a protein creamer in my store from a company called Nitor.
Oh, nice.
It's a great coffee creamer, but it adds 30 grams of protein when you add that in. So
I'm sure that goes right along well with your powerlifting.
Yeah, it's perfect. Yeah. The more protein you get in your system, the better for me. It's hard. It's hard every day. 245 grams of protein.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, it seems like the older you get, the harder it is to do that sort of stuff too.
It is.
Yeah, I think it meshes. I think it's really it cross platforms for sure, and maybe it's a matter of just a different specialty package. As seen in SCA. Across the top. It's a little sticker.
Oh yeah, because you can use the SCA logo now.
Because technically you're sponsored. Yeah, as seen on the SCA tour. Something like that. And I think you should fill it out. Maybe you and Jesse can go on a side project and figure something out and see if it.
Yeah.
Do some data and see if that works.
Put it right next to the POS,
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's the place where it has to be almost, in a store like that, is it has to be right up front, right where somebody's checking out, where it's an impulse buy. Because you're not going to go to a barbecue shop to say, I'm looking for some coffee, it has to be an impulsive buy.
Well, kind of what my original thought was on that was if I could actually get my rub to where I actually like it and we can bottle something, is that we would have it on the shelf and then the coffee would be kind of there too. So if they liked, the taste of the sample, they'd be like, hey, let's try the coffee too.
Right.
Yeah. That's a really good idea.
So, but like I said, I got to get my button here and get the coffee rub a little bit more refined.
It only took me 3 years on my formulas for my rubs. So it's such a streamlined process.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. The 6 bean blend, that was 2.5 years for me to get that one down.
Wow.
Yeah. So
that's pretty wild. Well, Marty, is there anything else that you might want to throw out there about the coffee industry that we want to might focus in on, other than obviously Dutch Brothers and Starbucks and all that? You're pretty much getting just a splash of coffee with a whole bunch of fillers.
Yeah. It's tough to say. I mean, I really have no love for Starbucks. That's just my personal preference. I think, that's a sugar overload, and it's a straight beeline for diabetes, So, the Dutch Brothers not as bad, but I think they're all trying to get that way a little bit, just because the mainstream demand. That's what those coffee companies have told people that they like,
Yeah.
and they don't give them much diversity in the type of the coffee, how it's prepared, and things like that. So they've kind of gotten this cookie cutter effect going out through a lot of these big chains that people just expect. And so they really don't have the really good coffee shops. They have serious baristas in them and things like that as much. There's a few of them around here and stuff like that. But I think people, because they don't recognize it as one of the big names, they don't think about it and think about what the difference really is with these guys and the care and the artistry they're putting into putting some of these coffees out,
Yeah.
So it's a battle.
Yeah, I agree. And then what if somebody's, I hate to say, but what if somebody's a new coffee drinker? Where should they start with, obviously we don't want them going to Starbucks and Dutch Brothers to really get the coffee experience. What is a good coffee blend that you may offer for somebody that's getting into coffee that's not going to be repulsive to them right out the gate? Because there are some, I had some coffees that I was like, oh my God, this is so strong. I just got punched in the jaw. I don't know if I even like coffee anymore.
Yeah. I think that's kind of where, the K-Cups are starting to come in and help with people. They get to experiment with the strength of it and see what they like. Now, a lot of times that means they're going to dump a lot of creamer in there, and some sugar and things like that. And just because beginners, that's what they're trying to, cleanse, get their palate cleansed a little bit and have something that they can drink. They don't like the bitterness of coffee. I think it's kind of one of those that the more you go with it, you get more of an acquired taste to it. You start to taste those different nuances and stuff. So beginners, they're expecting soft drinks,
Yeah.
And so the sweetness from a soft drink or something like that is kind of when they taste the coffee, it's like, man, this is totally different. And I've even had people in my work that's how they kind of started out. Is they'll adjust the strength on the K-Cup, and then they put some creamer in there, and they get it to kind of where they like it. They just have to experiment with a few and find out what really tickles their taste buds, And then after that, once they kind of figure that part out, then they can switch to, say, a ground, a drip coffee maker or something like that. And it'll be kind of the natural progression of their, evolution of the taste buds from the coffee, going through different types and find out what one works the best for them.
Right. That's kind of the equivalent to, wine coolers to beer to whiskey.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, every one of those is an acquired taste too. It's one of those you have to try and find which one you like.
Well,
it's true.
In Anthony's case, it's Mad Dog 2020 to beer to whiskey.
Yes.
Boone's.
Boone's Farm.
MD 2020. Oh God.
Mad Dog.
Yeah. Don't do it. My progression was probably Mad Dog. Then we went to the malt liquors, Brass Monkeys, and then to the whiskey.
Yeah.
It was bad. This is why you don't drink underage children.
That's right.
Don't drink.
Yeah. So go ahead and let people know where to follow you and get your products. I've been running this banner on the video, but let people know where they can get your products at.
Yeah, and that's exactly where I would have anybody go, is to the website there, kind of what you were showing, as far as like all of our different products, things like that. Go there, check them out, see what you like. If you have questions, you can reach out to me. I'm usually the one that responds to any requests and things like that through the site. So happy to answer any questions and kind of point people in the right direction if we can figure out kind of what their flavor profile is, and help to really kind of let them know the difference, of what we have versus, what they're going to find in Walmart on the shelf or Target or somebody like that, So
I can't wait. I can't wait to hop on there and order some new flavors. I feel like it's time for a little bit of a change.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you, since we talked a lot about the SCA, the code I believe that's on there is SCA20. That is a 20% off coupon basically at checkout. Wow. So feel free to use that. It helps support the SCA and us as well. So we'll keep sponsoring those guys and moving forward with them.
Well, Marty, we appreciate you being on here, and man, thank you so much for your sponsorships for the cooking contest. It's a bigger deal than most people think. It's a huge deal. So thank you so much for what you do.
You're welcome. Let's hook up on some of your comps this next coming year. Happy to join in.
Absolutely. We'll get it set up.
All righty, guys. Well, thanks for listening. Make sure you go to the pitmasterspodcast.com to check out the latest episodes. I'll probably download for sure. And then we'll catch you in a couple weeks. And then we'll break into our holiday break. So
awesome.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Yep. Thanks for joining us, Marty.
You bet.